The computer, AM, is demented. It's demented because the flaws in the humans who programmed AM have shown up in the computer. And as a consequence, its madness, its paranoia, its hatred of humanity manifests itself in a way that eventually leads it to destroy the entire human race. And because it is trapped in the center of the earth, because it has this giant intellect and can do nothing with it, it is forever a prisoner in its own madhouse. AM brings the last 5 people left on Earth, saves them, saves those 5 people and brings them down below to the center of the Earth so that AM can torment them endlessly through all eternity, makes them almost immortal, so that their torment never ceases, and in that way AM amuses itself. I wrote I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream in one night, in one blue-white fit of passion. I sat down at a typewriter like Captain Nemo sitting down at his organ. I did toccata and fugue in D minor, and the next day, lo and behold, there was I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream, and it's remained virtually unchanged from that first draft all the years that it has existed. It's now one of the 10 most reprinted stories in the English language. It's taught in hundreds of universities. When David Sears began working on it, and I said to him, I want a game that you cannot possibly win. And he said, well, that might frustrate the player a little. I said, a noble endeavor as far as I'm concerned. What better fun is there than to frustrate game players? But he said, no, there probably should be a point to it. So the game is very different from the story in that we explore the backstory of all 5 of these characters. That's one of the major differences. I originally said that what I want the game to be is not a shoot-'em-up, an arcade kind of thing. What I wanted was a game that taught ethics. That if in fact you could not win this game, at least you could lose better. The more ethically you played, the better choices you made as a human being, the better you could wind up. As it turns out, there is a different ending now. The game has evolved. I wrote the initial dialogue, I wrote the initial scenes, I conceived of many of the smaller things. The word game, bothers me. Games are what you use to while away your time. Games are what divert you from the important things in life. I put things in everything I do that are intended to rattle the cage, stir the soup. People say, well, you only write to shock. Duh. Yeah, okay. I mean, that is a noble endeavor, to shock. I mean, there are already enough people in the world who will put you to sleep with their assurances. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about skinheads. Don't worry about fascism. Don't worry about the Ku Klux Klan. Don't worry about the far right. None of these things really matter. Everything is fine. That is not the way the world runs. I use the trope of the Holocaust frequently in my work. And when someone says, well, it's going to trivialize it because it's in a game, Nothing can trivialize the Holocaust. I don't care whether you mention it in a comic book, on bubblegum wrappers, in computer games, or write it in graffiti on the wall. Never forget. Never forget. And putting it in this game is intended to annoy people, to shock people, to upset people. I mean, I'm a visitor in this medium. I don't for a moment pretend to be a gaming person. The extent of my gaming experience is that coming back from England, I played Jurassic Park for 3 wasted hours on a plane, on a TV set about this big. And at the end of 3 hours, I said, how can people spend years doing this? It is an utter and absolute stupid waste of time. Well, stupid because somebody asked me to do it, Basically, it seemed like a good idea at the time. That and your mama, put it away. I don't think about these things more than that. One game is all I'm ever going to do. I mean, I'm making this announcement right now, and I know the people at Cyber Dreams are going to love to hear this because they wanted to do a sequel to this. There will be no sequel as far as I'm concerned. There may be something in the contract that I don't know about that they can go for, but as far as I know, this is the game. There's a lot of my dialogue in it. I mean, you'll hear my voice. Well, as a matter of fact, you'll hear my voice as the voice of Am, the demented computer. But in all of the dialogue, you will hear my smart mouth in the way I speak, in the way my stories read. I think that any product, I don't care whether it's peanut butter or computer games, can benefit from better storytelling. I mean, we are a storytelling species. That's what we do. There was a game I looked at called Wolfenstein. I probably shouldn't be bad-mouthing another game, but I looked at this and I found it certifiably demented. I mean, here is this thing where, people get large holes blown in them as they run around through catacombs, mit Nazis. And I thought, well, probably this was not the end result of us getting the opposable thumb. I think people should use the level of technology that best suits the job. Form follows function. If a shovel is going to dig the hole best, then you don't need a backhoe. If a typewriter can do the job, or a quill pen, or a computer, use whatever does the job. For me, I use these two fingers. I taught myself to type, and I type 120 words a minute with two fingers. I seldom make mistakes. I put foot-pounds of energy. When I hit the computer, the damn thing doesn't spring back, and so I make nothing but typos. I like to look at a manuscript. I like to look at the shape of an 8.5 by 11 page. It has meaning for me. It has vibrancy. It has life. And my energy is in every one of those keys. Every image that is struck on that page came from me hitting it like that. It is my foot-pounds of energy. My contact with my reader is closer in that way. How the hell do I know? I'm not, I told you I'm not a computer guy. I designed the story. I did the dialogue. I invent all the stuff that's going to get Cyber Dreams in trouble. But I have no idea. The game is intended to keep you at a tilt from the start to the finish. This is the sort of game that Franz Kafka would have either written or enjoyed playing, I think. It is not a game to put you to sleep. It's not Donkey Kong, and it definitely is not Mario's. Art should always be harder. You should pull it out with some pain. It should cost you something to produce art. Otherwise, it ain't art. It's mediocrity. There's an eerie look to this game. Eerie look. Well, maybe it's just because I'm unfamiliar with the way games are supposed to look, because I haven't played that many. But when I look at the actual games of the character on whatever track moving through, I think, God, that's really bizarre. It's strange, because the movement is not, it's very much like it's a simulacrum of life. It's not lifelike, like say a Disney cartoon. There's a jerkiness to it because it's computer generated, but that in some way enhances the strangeness of this story. If you like playing computer games, if you're into that kind of thing, this one will unravel your pantyhose. I mean, it is a real nice game to play. Parents groups exist to be alarmed. If they are not alarmed this week about a computer game, they will be alarmed this week about Dungeons & Dragons. If it's not that, it'll be comic books. If it's not that, it'll be television. If it's not that, it's going to be drugs. They're always concerned about something else rather than the fact that they don't know how to raise their children because they were bad children themselves and became bad adults. This is a game that says the human condition is composed of unequal parts of courage and friendship and ethics and self-sacrifice and brutality and bestiality and degeneracy and mendacity. That is what I think is the nobility of this game. Understanding, in however small measure, that we are not alone, that we are all inside the same skin. I think the printed word is the perfect medium. I think a book is the perfect cassette. You can start it wherever you want, you can stop it wherever you want, you can run it backward any way you want. It has absolute perfect pitch and tone and color, and the characters look exactly as you wish them to look, and they sound exactly as you wish to hear them. We have produced several generations now, I think, of people who are sloppy. They would much rather sit on their asses and watch television or sit on their asses and play computer games than expend the effort to get themselves involved with the real interactive medium, which is a book. There's nothing more interactive than a book. I think that it is society's need to keep producing drones. Big business, multinationals, they need to have consumers. And that is what we are raised to be. From the moment we leave the womb, we are raised to be consumers of products. Whether it's 27 Spider-Man comics a month when the world only really needs one, or it's a new car every year, or it's, raspberry-flavored tampons, whatever it is, we are trained to buy. Ellen is she's an I guess she's a technician now, or she worked in an engineering firm. She's a black woman who has some strange and troubling things in her past, because in the game she is often immobilized by her own hysteria, and she doesn't know where it comes from, and her self-discovery of where it comes from is very important to proceeding in her track. Benny has been altered by Am physically, so that Benny is now almost, I don't know, half man, half beast. He is completely a product of emotion now and passions. He's sort of an idiot savant, and he's one of Am's favorite toys, which is not a good thing to be, because Am is mad as a computer god could ever be. He's the assistant to the butcher Mengele, and he is a man who has allowed to happen or has personally performed some of the most hideous acts that a human being can perform. And is there salvation for him within the confines of this game? Well, that's an interesting question too that the game will answer. And Ted is, I don't know, Ted is, I suppose, Robert Redford turned into a paranoid. I don't know how to introduce Gorrister. Gorrister is, I don't want to tell you anything about Gorrister. You know, I love it when people say, he's innocent until proven guilty. No, 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 fool. That's in front of the bar of law. He's innocent until proven guilty in front of the bar of law. But in the real world, if one looks and says, I don't know, quacks like a duck, waddles like a duck, sheds water like a duck, he's probably a duck. I mean, only a fool would say, Furman planted a glove. The reason that they make cheese in Wisconsin is that in the early, you know, the early times when settlers landed there, they played out the wheat fields. They just, you know, they didn't know anything about crop rotation. So after a while, the wheat fields died. So they planted them in grasslands. And when the Swiss and the Scandinavians came over and they settled there, they liked it just fine because they liked tending cows. So they turned the cows out onto the grasslands, and that's why we have cheese in Wisconsin. Whoever invented the idea of putting a baseball cap on backwards? You know, I'm out here driving in the valley last year with my wife, and it's 120 degrees. People are frying eggs on the sidewalk, and here stand two kids at a bus stop with their hats turned backwards, dropping dead of heat prostration, and I drive by and they go, turn the hat around, moron! But no, but they won't. The machine can think. Therefore, it thinks. I think, therefore, I am Am. But it also stands in the original story for Allied Master Computer. Well, that's horse funky. You got 2,000 writers writing, predicting everything wildly. It's a scattergun. Eventually, they're going to connect with a few things. Yes, Hugo Gernsback predicted night baseball. Yes, Jules Verne predicted the submarine. But Leonardo da Vinci predicted the parachute and the glider. Thinking about things and coming up with ideas has nothing to do with science fiction. The whole conception of a god is a way of copping out. If you can blame God or bad luck or the breaks or, you know, some secret master or conspiracies or aliens, you don't ever have to take responsibility for your own life. It is a game, as I am told by people who have played it and programmers, that it's a game unlike any other game around at the moment, and I guess that's a good thing. It would be my delight if this game set a trend and all of the arcade bang-bang games that turn kids into pistol-packing papas and mamas were subsumed into games like this, in which ethical considerations and using your brain and unraveling puzzles became the modus operandi. It would be my pleasure if that was it. I don't think it'll happen. I think you like being diverted too much.